So to start off, I just want to tell you a little bit about our psychotherapy programs in DC. I'm not going to go into detail about the other programs. Obviously, that's not why you're here. But just so you know that we have a suite of offerings, I suppose, in DC that we are specializing in developing psychotherapy knowledge and skills across a few programs. So we have our MSc in psychotherapy, which we're spending time on this evening, which is a professional training program for practice as a psychotherapist. We have our doctorate in psychotherapy, which is also a 4-year part-time program. But this is for people who are already qualified as psychotherapists or practicing psychotherapy. So for instance, occasionally we have counselling psychologists on that program as well. And this is where you're developing your specialism and also doing novel research in the field of psychotherapy, leading to a doctorate. We have our professional diploma in clinical supervision, which we only started last year. So it's a very popular program, again, for qualified practitioners. So it's not just psychotherapists on that program, we also have other disciplines like different disciplines within psychology, nursing, social work, and so on. We also have the option for people to attend some of our MSc in psychotherapy modules on a standalone basis. So if you are successful and decide to go ahead and apply to our program and are successful in getting onto the program, you'll occasionally see additional people coming in, joining modules who are already qualified but looking to add to their training. So some of the most popular modules would be our module on couple therapy or psychosexual therapy, or sometimes people decide to do our year 2 research inquiry module before joining our program in year 3. So these would be people who already have psychotherapy training, but maybe at a lower qualification level and are looking to increase to a master's level qualification, but may not have done novel research before. So they're looking to build up their knowledge of research before joining the program. We also have students who are doing psychotherapy who aren't doing training, but are PhD students or MSc research students working with us and with our team. And we also have a community psychotherapy centre called the Healthy Living Centre here in DCU. Now, we also have a student counselling service, but the Healthy Living Centre is a community-based centre, not just for students, although students can attend. It's a low-cost, fee-paying, but a low-cost community therapy centre. And a number of our students would be on placement there and do their practice work there as well. And as staff, we contribute to that centre too. So here we are. These are the bodies you'd be working with if you come to study with us. So myself, before I got the fringe, so I don't know how long the fringe will last, but that's still me. Evelyn, Gemma, Jerry, Rita, Ray, and Lilia, who's here with us as well this evening. And then we also have extra staff coming in, like Stephanie, who's with us this evening, lecturing on the program as well. So you'd get to know us very well over the 4 years together. So as you all probably know at this stage, it is a 4-year part-time program. It's level 9 on the National Framework of Qualifications, the Irish recognised framework, 120 European credits. It is a professional psychotherapy training that's recognised by IACP, the Irish Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy, and the NAPCP, the National Association for Professional Counselling and Psychotherapy. I'm sure there might be some questions about future state regulation through CORU, so we'll come on to that. But currently, so please do bring those questions in the Q&A if you're interested. But currently, accreditation for psychotherapy training is done by voluntary professional bodies. But these are the bodies, IACP, and another major, the two main psychotherapy accrediting bodies in Ireland are IACP and ICP, very similar, so easy to get them confused, but the Irish Council for Psychotherapy, which has a number of bodies within that. And employers typically require one or other professional accreditation in order to get employment in public posts. Another key thing to say, so it's accredited by IACP, would be one of the main bodies that people would want to know about that. The other thing to really emphasize is that it is an integrative psychotherapy training for working with adults. So it's not a training for working with children or adolescents, but it is for 18 years plus, young adults and adults, and couples, training for work with couples as well. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about the main psychotherapy paradigms that are covered within integrative psychotherapy training. But first of all, I just want to mention this because it's important to clearly know what this involves. So there is an option to exit the MSc in psychotherapy at the end of year 2. So you need to successfully complete, obviously, all the modules in years 1 and 2 to exit with this graduate diploma. But it's important to emphasize that this is an academic award rather than a professional qualification. To exit with the graduate diploma, you need to have completed 100 client practice hours. So you will have done practice work, but that graduate diploma isn't accredited by IACP or by any accrediting body. So it's not professionally accredited for practice. So that's worth 60 credits at level 9 on the National Framework Qualifications. One thing that can be useful to know is that you can exit and you can return to complete the other 2 years of the MSc if required, and if something happens in your life that you need to take time out. But you need to start and complete the MSc within 6 years. So you need to keep that framework or that timeline in mind. So what is involved in the MSc in psychotherapy? So as I say, it's a professional training program to practice integrative psychotherapy with individual, adults and couples. So within that, we cover psychotherapy theories across the main paradigms. Again, I'll talk to you a bit about that in a minute. There's development of psychotherapy skills, there's personal development work, there's clinical practice placement work. You attend clinical supervision, group supervision on the course, and individual supervision outside of the course hours. You engage in psychotherapy research in years 3 and 4 and start preparing for that at the end of year 2. And all throughout, you're involved in your own independent study, reading, learning. There's a lot of reading to do in psychotherapy. You'll be reading for the rest of your lives if you decide to take this career path. But that's part of the joy of this, because it's a continual and really engaging long-term learning process. So a bit more about the 4-year program. So we have entry routes at years 1, 2 and 3. Obviously, most people enter at year 1. You're starting off your psychotherapy training at that point. However, it is possible to join in years 2 and 3 if you have already done some prior psychotherapy training. And I'll come on to that a little bit further on when we're talking about applications. So within that, there are what we call ORPEL routes, recognition of prior learning routes, that you have to follow a particular process in your application. For all years, we work on campus. It's not an online program. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because it's not quite as enjoyable doing it online, but at the moment we are working online completely since January, and it's been what we've called a hybrid model since March of last year, where it's been mostly online but partly on campus work for some of the skills practice work. But since January, with the infection rates being so high, we've had to move to fully online at the moment and until mid-February, and then we'll review it to see how things are. But typically, hopefully at some stage, we'll get back to some kind of normality. And typically you will be on campus in DCU in Glasnevin in North Dublin. So in years 1 and 2, there are 30 days that you're on campus within the academic year between September to April, 15 in semester 1, 15 in semester 2. Our typical scheduling for that is that it's usually 10 to 11 weekdays, 4 to 5 Saturdays each semester, but that can be subject. We can't guarantee that for the full 4 years of the program, because occasionally we have to change our scheduling because of changes in the university scheduling. But you will get your timetable in advance before the start of the next academic year. The time commitment so in years 1 and 2, that's the time commitment, and then from the second half of year and the first semester in year 3. But from the second half of year 3 onwards, the time commitment reduces on campus in DCU, because we've covered all of our theory modules at that stage, and you're just continuing with your practice module and your module and your research module. And in year 4, so the second half of year 3 and year 4, you also have individual research supervision meetings with your research supervisors. So in addition to that, to your time in DCU, you attend your own individual personal therapy outside of the time that you're in DCU. So that's additional time plus additional cost to the fees, which are €6,000 per year for the MSc. And you have clinical placements, which are outside of course time as well. So typically, you start those in year 2. Typically, there will be a half day or one evening a week for the rest of your training from year 2 onwards. And you have external individual supervision, which again, you attend outside of your DCU time, and it's also an additional cost. If there are further questions about that, and when we get to the Q&A, that's fine, we can go through that. So the program content, year 1, we cover humanistic approaches to psychotherapy, cognitive-behavioural approaches or CBT approaches to psychotherapy, psychodynamic approaches, and then we have a module looking at starting to integrate the different models of therapy, so a module on integrative psychotherapy. And we also have a professional practice portfolio module that runs right through the year. And we have that running right through all 4 years. So your PPP1 module, as we call it, is in year 1. In year 2, we cover systemic approaches to psychotherapy. And sorry, actually, that second integrative psychotherapy, I should have updated, that's a mistake. We used to call that module integrative psychotherapy 2, but we've changed it now to psychotherapy and mental health, and we've changed the content a little bit. Couples psychotherapy, an integrative approach to working with couples. Again, your professional practice module runs right through the year. And then in semester 2 of year 2, you have your first module on research, where you start to develop your research question that you're going to work on from year 3 onwards. So you can see there in years 1 and 2, we cover the 4 main psychotherapy paradigms or ways of approaching psychotherapy, which are humanistic, CBT, psychodynamic, and systemic. So these are the 4 primary ways of working with people's mental health issues as they present to psychotherapy. And then we also have a module looking at integrating these different approaches so that how we work with our clients can be flexible and client-led, where we can consider what a particular client needs in their particular context and adapt our approach accordingly. Year 3, building on the couples module that you had in year 2, we have a psychosexual integrative practice module. Again, your professional practice portfolio model runs through research approaches where you start to develop your research question and preparing for starting to engage in your research, and then you start working with your individual research supervisor as well. In year 4, you have your professional practice module running through again, a few more research seminars to support you in your research work, as well as your individual research supervision. At the end of year 4, you complete your research dissertation. So basically just to run through what you're doing during those 4 years. So you will build up 300 hours of clinical practice starting in year 2, and that's you need to fulfill the 300 hours to complete the MSc. The individual supervision has to be done in the ratio of 1 to 4. So for every 4 client hours, you need 1 hour of individual supervision. So in total, you need 75 hours. You also have group supervision within the program, the same number of hours over years 2 to 4. Within the 4 years, you need to attend 80 hours of your own personal therapy. So roughly about 20 hours per year. Although you're required to, for IACP, you're required to complete 25 hours personal therapy before you start working with your own clients. But otherwise, roughly it's 20 per year. You can do more, of course, but that's the requirement. And then we also have personal awareness groups where you'll be in a personal discussion group with peers in your year group. And that continues throughout the program. And then also you're doing your own personal reflection, diarying and recording, journaling while you're working on the program. So in terms of supports that we have available in DCU while you're working on the MSc, this is the structure we have. So we have a chair of the program, which currently is me. That chair, we normally do that on 3 yearly rotations. So I'm in my 3rd year at the moment, and then we take turns as people on the team. Every module has a coordinator who you can bring any queries or concerns to as you go through the program. You also are assigned a personal tutor for your time on the program. So one of the team will be your designated go-to person. If you're having some issues about managing the program, it's not personal therapy, but it's a more personal connection in terms of managing being on the program and managing other demands in your lives, or if there are issues coming up for you. We have Lily at the moment. Of course, you've met her already, working as our administrator for our programs. You'll have your research supervisor from year 3 onwards, second half of year 3 onwards. When you're on placement, you'll have, usually there's a placement coordinator who you link with there as well for support. In the library, we have a fantastic library in DCU and a really good writing centre, which offers good academic support. If you're coming back to studying after being away for a while, or have never done level 9 study before, it can be really helpful to use the resources in the library to help you develop your academic writing skills. There's a great website with lots of resources available on it, so it's worth having a look through the website to see what's there. We use quite actively our virtual learning environment, Moodle, which we call Loop. So lots of resources are put, all the module coordinators will put up resources on Loop for you, reading resources. You need to do your own reading as well and source and find your own articles and books to read. But we put a lot up on Loop for you, which can be very helpful for your learning. And we also, whenever we get to be in person again, we have a nice communication suite in DCU. We have 4 rooms with inbuilt cameras, which we use for skills practice, which can be really helpful for developing confidence in practice before you work with clients and through your training. So the last little bit then is just me talking a bit about applying for the program, and then we'll come back to you as a large group. So this is the link, and you'll have that in the slides when Lilia sends it on to you for you to apply for the MSc in psychotherapy, and that's the code DC715 to apply. And there's also a link to some help with the application process if you need it. The closing date is the end of March, that's fixed. That's not negotiable, so do please make sure it gets in. And do also make sure that we've had some problems before with people applying, but they hadn't paid. I think you have to pay. I don't know if it still works on the new system, Lilia, because we have a new system this year. But if you hadn't paid before the deadline, the application wasn't registering. Now, you don't have to completely finish the application. You can leave it with some information still to put in, but if it isn't paid for, it doesn't register. Do you know, Lilia, is that still the case?
I'm not sure about this.
We don't know, okay. But it's worth just keeping it in mind just to make sure that you process it enough that it's been registered. And you'll see on the website, on the webpage, what you need. But basically, you need evidence that you have the level 8 qualifications that's needed, that you have the 1 year's professional experience that's needed, that you include a personal statement, which helps us assess your personal suitability, and 2 references, 1 academic and 1 professional. And the templates for those are on the webpage, so please use those. Just to mention about the references, typically what you would be doing is uploading those references. So you get them from your referees, they send them to you, and you upload them on the DCU website. But if there's any referee who doesn't feel comfortable sending you the reference directly, they can send it to me as the program chair to the DCU address that's at the beginning of these slides. Because some referees just prefer they prefer not to give it directly to the person they're writing the reference for. So that is fine if needed, but the preference is to just upload it yourselves if possible. So just to quickly go through the entry requirements for the different years, and again, it's all up on the website, but it can help just to hear it out loud as well. So you need to have a relevant undergraduate degree at level 8 on our National Framework of Qualifications or its equivalent. So check to see if your degree is from elsewhere, another country. Just check to find out, is it equivalent to our level 8? The kinds of degrees that people have had who come onto our program are social care degrees, social work degrees, psychology, nursing, education, pastoral care, chaplaincy. Some of you may have queries about your own backgrounds, but it's quite a range. Minimum 1 year relevant recent professional caring or helping experience. So you can see some of the examples there: counsellor, helpline work, social care work, special needs teaching, psychology assistant, so on. There's quite a range. Now, this doesn't need to be full-time experience. It can be part-time and it can be voluntary. But we do require 1 year in order to join our MSc. And where there has been some training or supervision, so you've had some guidance for this work. And then you complete your online application, submit your 2 references and your personal statement. And then there's some other requirements for your CV, a scan of your passport and your academic transcripts. You need to kind of gather a bit of material as part of that application. But you don't have to do it all in one go. You can start it and go back at it again. And then if you meet the eligibility criteria, as noted there, you'll get called for an interview. If you're applying through the ORPEL, the Recognition of Prior Learning process, for year 1, you can only do this in relation to the academic requirements. So you can't apply through ORPEL if you don't meet the experience, the professional experience requirements. That is non-negotiable. You have to have that experience. But if you don't have a level 8 relevant degree, you can apply through the ORPEL, giving evidence of why you would be suitable to apply for this program. You don't do that application. There may be some questions when we get to the Q&A about that. You don't submit your ORPEL document, and that's available from myself or Lilia if you haven't already got that, and if you need it, just email one of us for that. But you only do that after a successful interview. So you need to apply through the online portal, get called for interview, and then after you can successfully complete your interview, then you're invited to submit your ORPEL application. So we'll be in touch with you to ask you to do that. But it's important, if you are intending to apply through ORPEL, that you note that in your personal statement. Otherwise, it will look like you haven't met the eligibility criteria and you won't get called for interview. So it's really critical that you name that. If you're looking to join in year 2, again, you apply online to the MSc and note your intention to apply to join in a later year in your personal statement. Again, that is critical so we can make sense of your application. Again, you successfully complete an interview and then you'll get invited to send in your ORPEL application to me as chair. And then all the ORPEL applications are reviewed by the Recognition of Prior Learning Board for all our programs. So that usually involves the chair, another staff member and a faculty teaching, postgraduate teaching convener, usually 3 people on the board. So it's important that all the necessary material to support your application is in it. And then that board will either offer you the year you're looking for, they could offer you another year. So let's say you're looking to join in year 3, it's possible the ORPEL board could come back and say that they could offer you a place in year 2, but not in year 3, or they could offer you what you're looking for, or you may get turned down. Of course, that's a possibility too. So you need to show that you meet, if you're looking to enter in year 2, you need to show that you meet the equivalent of what they've already had training, which is the equivalent of what we've covered in year 1 on our MSc at level 9 as well, or equivalent. If you're looking to enter in year 3, again, it's very similar, but you're looking to be exempt from years 1 and 2. So you need to show in your application that you meet the equivalent, or your training has covered the equivalent of what we have covered in years 1 or 2 of our MSc. So typically people looking to join our program in year 3 have already completed a psychotherapy training program, but it's been at graduate diploma level maybe, or BA level, and they're looking to increase their qualification to master's level. Again, if there are further questions about that, I'm happy to hear them.